This session is just for you leaders. This is a leadership team session overview. I do an entire offsite for executive teams, anywhere between 5 and 10 people. Can be done in a 1-day workshop or a 2-day workshop. What I'm going to share with you now is an overview and actually things you can absolutely take with your team right now. I highly recommend the book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. I was trained by Pat and some of his top team members and consultants that have been with Pat for many, many years. Some of them have been with him since the beginning. And Pat Lencioni's work is really important around creating great teams that work together. The whole idea that they are way more than the sum of their parts. And I know your team can be that way too. If you are interested in an offsite for your executive team that's 1 day or 2 days, please let me know. We can talk about it. And I hope some of this is enough information for you to implement for your teams right away. All right. This is what's interesting about this class is that I'm going to tell you stuff you already know. And that's because we all need to be reminded. How often is it that somebody says things to us, somebody's like, I knew that. I totally knew that. I just forgot, or I haven't done that in a while. I've gotten out of the habit. I had somebody the other day say, hey, I used to meditate every day, and then I had some change in plans, and now I just need to get back to it. I just need to be reminded to be doing my meditation. So I'm going to share things with you today that most likely you already know. And it's my responsibility to just help you bring this to the forefront of your mind and remind you why it's important to be doing some of these things that you likely already know. So one of the things with building a cohesive leadership team is to think about your favorite teams. A really cool exercise that I do in these offsites is that we actually put together a list of all the things that made a previous team so successful. What was so great about that team? How they performed, how they communicated, if the people were really, really smart, if what smart looks like in a different environment. And so all of these different things that people will put together, we then collaborate as a team and say, okay, what are the similarities in these teams? And so we actually come up together with what does a great successful leadership team look like? Or any time of successful team. Maybe it was on Little League. I like people to work on giving me examples from when they were an adult. And sometimes there was a really great experience that somebody had in college that could really provide some value on what a great successful team looks like. And so we discuss it as a group and then come up with some of these things. Now, what's really interesting about this is that your best team, we can actually put together, what does your best team look like? What are the attributes of your best team? And then we put that up on the board and then everybody goes, yeah, that team, man, that team is amazing. That was like the best team ever. And we can take a look at it from there. And what's really interesting is the things that we know really make a team successful are also the healthy things. And it's really interesting from a business perspective how much time we put, particularly in college, on the smart side. I was a business major at Santa Clara University, and the smart side is really important. Understanding the finance and the IT and the marketing and strategy and all these real smarts part of it, which is great and super valuable. You've got to have that. If you have the smarts and not the healthy, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how smart you are if the team's not working together. It doesn't matter how much money you have funded if people have massive turnover and you're constantly retraining and retraining and the morale is low and people are confused on the direction of the company. Doesn't matter about the smarts. Now, the inverse is different. If you have a healthy team, the smarts are important. They can just be figured out better when the team is working together with minimal politics and high morale and low turnover. It's amazing. Though we as leaders, our education system, your MBA is all around the smarts. It's not about the healthy. And that's why there's such a need to have conversations around the team. The book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, is actually a fable. It's a story made up about a Silicon Valley company and an experience that an executive has taking over a company and working with the executive team and showing them how to go from being dysfunctional and a lot of different finger pointing to actually working together as a team and a focus on the healthy versus the smart. Now, this is where the foundation of this works. And amazingly, this is how it's going to work in every relationship, your personal relationships, your professional relationships, that trust is at the foundation. Weird that a successful relationship or successful team would have trust as a foundation. Like I said, I told you you're going to know these things. And how often we overlook it, how often we get working with our team and we start getting into the results piece before we ever build a foundation of trust. This happens all the time in a business environment. And you wouldn't even dream of getting married to somebody you wouldn't trust, though you work with an executive team that sometimes there's not trust there. And I mean like gut trust that you really feel in your soul. And then you've got to build conflict. Now, conflict is normal. Conflict is healthy. Conflict is really, really good. It means we're communicating and we're getting our expectations in alignment. That's awesome. And what's really interesting is conflict is unhealthy when there's no trust. When there's trust, conflict is awesome. Once we've come to an agreement on next steps, we can have commitment. And then accountability is everybody holding each other accountable to what they've committed to doing. And then we get the results. It's kind of like magic. And it's not really, right? These are things we know in our own life. We see these things happen when we trust ourselves and we have a little inner conflict and when we commit to doing something and then we have a way of holding ourselves accountable or having somebody hold us accountable and we get the results. This is how most weight loss programs work, right? Do you trust yourself to make the right decisions because you've decided this is what you want to do? This is how you run a marathon, right? You have to trust yourself that you can do it and you can make this work and you can do the trainings. And there's this inner conflict. Oh, this is hard and this is more miles than I've ever run in my life. And then you commit. All right, I got this. I'm doing this. And you got a coach that's holding you accountable and you get the result. You finish a marathon. Very similar. So the first step in this is obviously building trust, being open, and vulnerability, right? Vulnerability is what builds connection. Brene Brown did a whole TED talk about vulnerability creates connection. And if you think about your most important relationships, it's the ones where you've been most vulnerable. So if you are comfortable being open, then you have the opportunity to build trust. And in a cohesive executive team that's working together, or cohesive leadership that's working together, you have to take that risk because the team and the organization is more important than a little bit of uncomfortable vulnerability for us as a leader on the team. We have to share our weaknesses, our failures, and our fears. Like, yeah, I know I'm in charge of the finance department and I really have some concerns about this area, or I need support with a team member on my team. This is an area where I'm struggling. Does somebody else help me? And then also having the aspect of being smart and knowing what your own strengths are so that when somebody else is on your team, you can volunteer to help them as well. Some things that we can talk about for building trust is really talking about our strengths and weaknesses. One of the things that I do with every executive team that I do or leadership team that I do offsite is that we do a DISC behavioral profile so that everybody is really clear on what their natural strengths are, what their natural blind spots are, and how we can help support each other to be more than the sum of our parts. The other thing with building trust is having face-to-face meetings together and doing some sessions where we're working together on something. I was part of a seminar where we were building trust as a team. There were 16 of us on the team, and we did a community service project. And wow, we built even stronger connections and working together towards goals at this community service project. It was awesome. And we know that time, face-to-face meetings is valuable. Even though I know you're watching this on recording and we're doing a lot of meetings these days via Zoom, it's still important for leaders to get together at least 4 times a year to have that face-to-face time and deepen that trust and connection and seeing somebody face-to-face and connecting with them both personally and professionally. The next piece is conflict. When trust has been established, when everybody is learning how to be vulnerable and open with each other, then we can have trust. And then we can have conflict on top of that. And this is what we talk about. We're having conflict over a decision. It's not a finger pointing. It's not, you do this all the time. You always say that. And what it is that we're having a debate around ideas and issues and a decision. If we're, do we want red or black? Do we want green or purple? These are decisions. Are we going to expand or are we going to reduce our overhead? what is the decision that needs to be made? Here's an idea that we're going to do. And mastering that conflict is really, really valuable. And it really only happens when there's trust, because then people can speak up and say, I'm not sure I like the purple carpet that we've picked out. I'm not sure that's really going to make sense for us in the long term. And this is why I'm not sure I like the purple. It doesn't mean that the person who picked the purple is not smart or was a bad choice. It was like, this is just my opinion, perspective, my seat on the bus. And so I am able to talk about the purple carpet, for example, around the issue itself, and not saying, why would you pick purple? That's really silly. That's a dumb choice. No, I can just say, this is my experience and perspective around the issue or ideas or decision. And so mastering conflict is easier for some people than others, and that's okay. And so you are going to know that when we do the DISC behavioral style. We spend quite a bit of time on that, so that everybody is super, super clear on. Some groups are going to be really comfortable with the conflict and others are not. There are people that were brought up in families where they never discussed conflict at all and have no idea how to handle it when there is conflict in the workspace or conflict on an executive team. But hey, I thought we're supposed to all trust each other. Yes, and healthy trust has healthy conflict, which means we're discussing things. The conflict is important because it shakes out all the pieces. It's like, hey, how come you didn't say that the purple doesn't clean really well, or it picks up you can see the dirt much more with the purple carpet? Well, I know Sarah was really excited about the purple, so I didn't want to upset her. We have to be able to bring up our concerns about whatever they are, and then we make a decision. Hey, these are my concerns about the purple carpet. And then we may decide as a team that we're going to do the purple carpet anyway. Well, at least everybody goes in with their eyes wide open, or has an opportunity to set up some other things that may need to be done around the purple carpet. Maybe we got to vacuum it more often. I don't know. You can see I'm spitballing with this. But the idea I think you can see is that we're discussing an issue, not a person, and making sure that everybody on the executive team can see some of the things that you're seeing. People are on different seats on the bus. They might not be able to see what you're seeing. And then when you have the ability to give your own perspective because you trust that you will not be personally attacked for having your perspective, you will likely be appreciated for having your perspective and not having conflict. And I would say conflict resolution is conflict is important because it's sort of like music. It's not monotone. You're going to have different conflicts of music. I mean, that's conflict, right? And so establishing common grounds, and then just understand somebody maybe sitting at the edge of the table and wanting to say something, not quite sure, feels a little like, do I? And like, okay, hey, this is somebody who doesn't naturally lean into the conflict, and we may have to make sure that we get that person's perspective, because typically those people are noticing everything. So the next piece after that, once we've gotten some conflict and we've discussed all the issues about which color carpet we want to get, then we have to make a commitment. And this is crucial to have the conflict in order to get the commitment. Everybody needs to be engaged in the conversation so that we can commit going forward. I may not like the purple carpet. I may have come up with all the reasons why I think the purple carpet doesn't make sense. And all my other team members are super excited about the purple carpet and all the things and positive. Okay, well, all right, I don't love it. And I see where they're coming from. I don't necessarily agree, and it's okay to commit. I've at least been heard on my perspectives, and there's no point in afterwards saying, see, I told you. No, we're making this commitment as a team. We have to get buy-in to commit to the decisions. There's got to be, okay, all right, I see why you guys love the purple. All right, I'm in. Count me in on the purple. We'll do it. Let's don't love it, and I'm in. So once you say you're in, the executive team has to make this commitment together. So at the end of each meeting, we have to review our commitments. What did we commit to as a team? The road to success is through commitment. Everybody's aligned. Okay, we all committed to these 3 things, and we might disagree. Now we're going to commit. We're all commitments, and we've left the conflict part in the past, and now we are committing. We're moving things forward. Because if we're going to go back and rehash, then we really didn't hash it all out. So the conflict time, you actually spend quite a bit of time in the conflict, which is great. Let's get it all hashed out. Let's get everybody in alignment. Okay, well, we heard everything we needed to say, and then let's move on. The next piece is the accountability piece. After we have commitment, everybody has to be willing to hold each other accountable. And what that means is we are helping to support each other. It is much better when team members support each other versus having the leader of the team have to go, hey, did you get your stuff done? Did Joe get his stuff done? Did Oscar get his stuff done? No, we want to make sure that we're helping each other be accountable and connecting with each other. I might be the head of finance and my marketing counterpoint might come to me and say, hey, I know you're working on those reports. How is that going? I'm like, oh, slow. I got buried with this, this, and this. Maybe as my marketing counterpoint, may not be able to do those reports, may be able to help me with the things that are distracting me or that getting in my way. Or if nothing else, can help me get refocused for the time on what needs to be done for the team. We want to hold each other accountable because we agreed to this commitment as a team. So if the team is really together, then I, as a team member, need to help my teammate get done whatever they need to get done. And this is what it means for accountability. We're communicating goals and a standard of behavior. This is how we do things. A friend of mine is a basketball coach, and it's just a mentality of what we do here. In the movie Hoosiers, they have a whole thing about what the standards of behavior are on the court and off the court. We're discussing our performance versus goals and standards, right? What are we doing to make sure that we're all behaving in the right way? And there is no such thing of, oh, that's not my job. That's the finance department. That's the marketing department. It's not my job. You are part of the leadership team. It is your job. This team works as a group. It either works or it doesn't work as a group. We succeed or fail together. So those are the 5 pieces of the teamwork, because the results follow after accountability. You still measure the results, obviously, and the idea is that we can keep moving forward and keep rebuilding on this pyramid. If this was interesting to you on how we can work through these different things, each section actually has its own set of, how do I say this? Own set of exercises that we do. And can actually dig deep. And so each one of those sections does take quite a bit of time to dig deep and make sure that everybody's really clear on what needs to happen as next steps. If this is interesting to you, please get the book, The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. There's also a workbook available. You could do your own offsite. If you'd like to talk to me about facilitating an offsite for your leadership team, please reach out. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this, and make it a great day.